What do you mean we haven't monitored warehouse temperatures for 2 summers? Landon Lel's voice didn't rise, but the weight of it crashed over the boardroom like a thunderclap. He wasn't shouting, yet the sudden drop in the room's temperature was undeniable. Every eye flicked to him. The air turned taut, sharp like glass about to crack. 5 years ago, Landon had inherited the family-run logistics firm, and in that time, he'd pushed it from a modest 6-location business to a sprawling network of 9 facilities across 3 states. On paper, he was thriving, but somewhere along the line, he'd traded gut instinct for the sterile comfort of spreadsheets and quarterly forecasts, and it showed. Carla, the district manager, shifted uneasily in her chair, her fingers tapping an anxious rhythm against her notepad. Well, the Phoenix warehouse it's one of our oldest, but the site manager says productivity is steady. No one's filed any formal complaints. Landon stared past her, his gaze fixed somewhere far beyond the beige walls. No complaints, he repeated quietly, as though the phrase itself soured his mouth. He knew too well silence didn't mean contentment. More often it meant fear. Or worse, a resignation that this was as good as it would ever get. "I want to see it," he said suddenly. Carla blinked, caught off guard. "You mean visit? I can arrange something." "No." Landon stood. His voice had lost all pretense. "I want to work there. Undercover." The room froze. The idea wasn't just unorthodox, it was unheard of. "They've never met me. I've never even set foot in that warehouse. I can blend in. Be just another guy, learning the ropes." The next morning, Landon shed his executive identity. He shaved off the neatly trimmed beard, dyed his hair a muted brown, and pulled on a threadbare hoodie. He climbed behind the wheel of an aging delivery van that had seen better decades. In a matter of hours, Landon Lel became Doug, an anonymous new hire from out of state, no ties, no history. The Phoenix warehouse loomed like a relic from another era, a steel tombstone perched on the edge of an industrial wasteland, sun-bleached and defiant. From the outside, it looked forgotten. Inside, it felt cursed. The heat struck him like a wall. The air was stagnant and thick, clinging to skin like wet wool. 2 corroded fans spun lazily near the breakroom, more symbolic than functional. Thankfully, it had to be over 100 degrees inside, maybe more. Pallets towered in precarious stacks, and the workers moved fast, too fast. Shirts clung to their backs like second skin soaked in sweat. They didn't talk much, just moved, like cogs in a desperate machine. "Ding, dog," a voice barked. A tall man in cargo shorts and a faded polo strode toward him with the swagger of someone too tired to fake politeness. "I'm Travis. I run this hellhole." "You're late." "Sorry," Landon muttered, lowering his voice to match the roll. "Got a bit turned around." Travis didn't offer a handshake, just a shrug. "Whatever, welcome to hell." He handed Landon a barcode scanner, a ragged orange vest, and gestured toward a slim, red-faced girl who looked no older than 20. "That's Brooke. She'll show you the ropes." Brooke didn't smile, but her tone wasn't unkind, just bone-weary. "You'll be scanning inbound. Stay close. Don't touch anything unless I say, and if you start to feel dizzy, sit. We've had a few people pass out already this summer." Landon blinked. "Wait, seriously? That's happened?" She swiped her ID and opened the loading dock doors, bracing herself against the furnace of outside air. "Yeah," she said, "but Travis says it's part of the grind." Hours blurred. The tasks were repetitive: lift, scan, carry. But under the relentless heat, each movement became a battle. There were no fans near the dock, no cold water, only a sad excuse for a cooler by the break room that was always empty. A kind-eyed man named Denny eventually handed Landon a half-warm bottle from a private stash. Don't expect management to give a damn, he muttered. To them, we're just numbers. Landon didn't respond, but the words echoed inside him. Numbers, not people. Later, while unloading a shipment with Brooke, he noticed her hands trembling. Her skin was pale under the sweat, her breath shallow. Then, without a word, she swayed and crumpled to the concrete like a marionette with its strings cut. "Brooke!" Landon shouted, dropping the box and rushing to her side. Her eyes fluttered, her breathing faint and labored. "Somebody help!" he cried out, voice breaking with panic. For a moment, no one moved. Then Denny sprinted over. Travis arrived last, chewing lazily on a granola bar. "She probably skipped lunch again," he muttered, not even bending down. Landon stared at him, rage simmering beneath his skin, colliding with something deeper, a sickening realization. This wasn't neglect. It was accepted, normalized, forgotten. And that was the real crisis. "Are you serious?" Landon snapped, unable to contain the storm rising in his chest. "She passed out from heat exhaustion and you're blaming her?" Travis barely looked up from his granola bar, eyes disinterested. "You new guys are always dramatic. She'll be fine." Landon's fists clenched so tight his nails bit into his palms. This wasn't just negligence anymore. It was something colder, uglier. It was cruelty wearing a polo shirt and a smug grin. The paramedics arrived and lifted Brooke onto the gurney. Travis didn't flinch. He didn't follow. He didn't care. As the ambulance pulled away, Landon stood rooted to the concrete floor, his shirt soaked, his heart thundering. Fury surged in his veins. Guilt gnawed at his gut. This had been happening under his watch, in the company that bore his family's name, and he'd been blind. He'd come to observe. Now he was done watching. The next morning, Landon returned before dawn. The delivery van, now part of his disguise, rolled into the farthest corner of the lot, its headlights briefly illuminating the worn skeletal structure of the warehouse. A single flickering lamp above the side entrance cast shadows like ghosts against the metal walls. He entered through the same employee door as before. The air inside was stifling, heavy, as though it hadn't moved all night. If anything, it felt hotter, more oppressive. There was no mention of Brooke. Her name didn't echo through the break room or come up during the morning briefing. Travis stood in front of the workers, rattling off metrics like a drill sergeant. Units moved, targets missed, expectations. "No dead weight today," he barked. It was as if nothing had happened. As if the girl who had collapsed under his nose had been an inconvenience, not a person. Landon stood at the back, arms crossed, jaw tight. At the dock he was paired with Reggie, a man in his 40s who moved with the careful rhythm of someone nursing old injuries and older disappointments. "You do the checks," Reggie said, handing him a clipboard. "I'll handle the lift." "I can help," Landon offered, trying to bridge the distance. Reggie glanced sideways, a flicker of experience in his eyes. "Nah, you're still green. Won't risk you dropping anything." They worked in silence. Every time a truck backed into the bay, the metal walls trembled. The heat kept rising. It wasn't even 8 yet. After nearly an hour, Reggie finally spoke again, his voice low. "You knew, right?" Landon didn't have to ask what he meant. "Yeah. First week." Reggie nodded. "You see what happened to that girl yesterday?" "I was right there," Landon said quietly, the memory of Brooke's collapse flashing behind his eyes. Reggie leaned in just slightly, like sharing a secret that could cost him. "She ain't the first. Last summer, guy named Felix dropped on the line. Ambulance came, took him out. Came back the next day, limping." Landon turned. "Why'd he come back?" "Because Travis told him if he didn't, he'd rethink his hours. Permanently." Landon's hands froze. The scanner beeped against a box he wasn't even reading. "Is that legal?" Reggie chuckled bitterly. "Legal? You think Travis cares about legal? He's been running this place like a damn sweatshop since forever. Anyone complains, he writes them up. Enough write-ups and you're gone. That's his playbook. Landon looked up at the office above, where Travis stood again, arms folded, gaze sweeping over the floor like a hawk circling prey. And upper management just lets that slide? Reggie shrugged. Far as I know, no one from upstairs ever shows. Emails, numbers. As long as the shipments leave on time, nobody asks questions. The weight of it settled on Landon like bricks. The silence from the top wasn't ignorance. It was permission. They kept working. At one point, Reggie winced, placing a hand on his back. You good? Landon asked, genuinely concerned. Yeah, Reggie said, teeth gritted. Been trying to get off dock rotation for months. Told Travis, said I got sciatica. He told me to drink more water and stop whining. Landon didn't respond, but inside something twisted tighter. One story, then another, all pointing to the same source, and the same vacuum above it. His vacuum. Later, Landon was moved to inventory with a woman named Tanya. She was methodical, composed, and efficient. She didn't waste time or energy on small talk. You've been here a while? Landon asked, scanning a box with no label. 3 years. Well, stay? She paused, then answered with something that struck Landon in the chest. Because I need the job, and because someone has to look out for these kids. Make sure they don't get hurt. Like Brooke? Tanya nodded. She's 19. Was working doubles, trying to help her mom with rent. I told Travis she needed shorter shifts. He told me to stay in my lane. They moved to the next row. Landon looked up again, toward the glass window above. Does he ever come down? Tanya shook her head. Only when he's writing someone up, or sniffing out someone he thinks is slacking. Otherwise he stays in that freezer of an office, only room in the building with working air, of course. Landon had signed off on the retrofit budget last year, under the assumption that climate control installation meant full site coverage. That's what Carla's report had said. Climate stabilization completed at Phoenix site. Now he understood. It had been smoke and mirrors, a half-truth, a carefully selected detail that covered up the rest. When lunch rolled around, Tanya offered him half of her sandwich. He declined and slipped away to the break room. It was nearly barren. Empty vending machines, a handwritten sign on the fridge. Personal items only, no communal storage. The water cooler? Bone dry. Landon stepped outside, the sun scorching his back. He crossed the lot and climbed into the van. With trembling fingers, he pulled out his phone and called Carla. She answered cheerfully. Hey, how's the trip? Landon's voice was steel. When you said climate control was completed in Phoenix, what exactly did that mean? Carla hesitated. Well, the office was retrofitted. Landon stared at the horizon, jaw clenched. The silence between them stretched like a chasm, wide enough to swallow excuses. And suddenly, Landon knew what had to come next. Portable fans, Landon repeated, his voice stripped of any emotion, cold as the concrete floor beneath his boots. They're broken, both are, and someone collapsed yesterday from heat exhaustion. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. We didn't have that in any reports. No, Landon replied. You didn't. I'll come down next week, do a walkthrough. No, he said firmly. I don't want you anywhere near this place until I'm done here. He hung up. The heat hit him again as he stepped back inside, but this time it didn't bother him. This time it fueled him. That afternoon, he pushed harder. He didn't just observe. He worked every station, lifted every box he could, scanned alongside the crew, and listened. Really listened. He met Lewis, a teenage new hire who said Travis told him to lift with his gut because proper technique was a waste of time. Mayim, a mother of two, had been clocked out automatically during overtime hours and told it was a system glitch when she asked why her paycheck was short. A high schooler named Chase said he once asked for a water break and got a clipboard shoved into his chest instead, along with a growl to "man up." Each story layered onto Landon like bricks on his back, heavier and heavier until he could hardly breathe. Each one was proof of something rotten, something long left to fester. At 5 p.m., Travis finally made his grand entrance onto the floor. He clapped his hands. "All right, enough dragging. I want this bay cleared before 6. No excuses." Landon dropped his scanner and walked directly toward him. "Travis," he said, calm but unwavering. "You got a minute?" Travis didn't recognize him. "You got a question? Ask your lead." "I'm asking you." Travis narrowed his eyes. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Landon reached into the front of his vest and pulled out a polished badge with a simple logo. Landon Lel, CEO. The silence that followed was immediate, thick, and absolute. Travis's mouth fell slightly open. "Wait, what?" "I've been here 2 days," Landon said, his voice now filling the warehouse, "and I've seen enough." He turned to the workers, some frozen, others blinking in disbelief. "Listen up, my name is Landon Lel. I own this company, and if you've been mistreated, ignored, or worked to exhaustion here, that ends today." The ripple spread across the crew like an invisible wave. Some exchanged looks, others just stared. Travis stepped forward, trying to salvage control. "Sir, I think you're misunderstanding. This is a high-volume location. We run a tight—" "You're finished," Landon cut him off, eyes locked. "Get your things." Travis's face turned crimson. "You can't just—" "I can, and I just did," Landon said. "You endangered your staff. You retaliated against complaints. You lied about safety. You're done." Security came quickly. Travis was escorted off the premises without ceremony, muttering protests no one listened to. When the doors closed behind him, the entire warehouse seemed to exhale. Quietly, cautiously, Landon turned back to the workers. "This place changes now." He meant every word. No one clapped. No one cheered. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was the silence of uncertainty, of people waiting to believe again. Landon stood in the middle of the floor, surrounded by tired, wary eyes. They'd been let down too many times to trust easily. "I'm not here to give a speech," he said simply. "I came to see the truth. I've seen it, and I'm staying until this place runs the way it always should have." He didn't expect applause. He didn't need it. Tanya stepped forward from inventory, arms crossed. "I need someone who knows this place better than I do," he said. "Someone the crew trusts." "I don't want a promotion," she said before he could continue. "I'm not offering one. I'm asking for your help." She studied him. "You're not going to fix this in a day." "I know." A pause. Then she nodded. "Start with the floor workers. They've been running on fumes for months." He nodded. "Who's stretched the thinnest?" "Reggie needs medical clearance before he lifts another box. Lewis is 16, and he's been loading solo, and receiving's been 2 people short for weeks." "Are there any trained leads besides Travis?" "Brooke was training to be one," she said quietly. "She was good at it. Real good." Landon turned to the remaining staff. "Pull anyone who's capable. I'll cover gaps with regional teams until I've got full staff in place." Tanya raised a brow. "You still going undercover?" "No," he said with a small smile. "Doug's gone, but I'm not." By evening, Landon had turned the upstairs conference room into a makeshift command center. He fielded calls, reviewed outdated safety reports, some missing signatures, others rubber-stamped with initials he didn't recognize. The more he read, the more the scope of the failure came into view. At 7, there was a knock at the door. A young woman with short braids and a clipboard stepped in. "You the owner?" Landon stood, Yes, come in. She didn't sit. I'm Taylor. I run third shift. Was off yesterday. Just heard what happened. Glad you're here. I'm not here for show, she said. I've filed 6 complaints this year, all ignored. I'm not filing a 7th. I just want to know, are you real? Or is this another stunt? I'd feel the same if I were you, Landon said. What do you need right now? 2 things. Cold water access at the loading bay, and a formal suspension of forced overtime until we're properly staffed. You'll have the water by morning, Landon said, and we'll bring in temp workers immediately. No one works a shift they didn't agree to, not anymore. Taylor held his gaze for a moment, then nodded. I'll hold you to that. As she left, Landon scribbled a note. Taylor, strong leadership, follow-up for supervisor role. He wasn't looking for perfect resumes. He was looking for people who cared. He didn't go home that night. Instead, he fell asleep in a worn office chair, phone buzzing every hour with updates from HR, compliance, and facilities. By morning, a mobile cooling unit rumbled near the dock. Noisy, bulky, and temporary, but blessedly cold. Workers paused as they passed through the chill, eyes wide, shoulders easing. One nodded to Landon in passing, just a small, silent gesture, but it meant more than any applause ever could. At noon, Brooke returned. She came in through the side entrance, her mother beside her. In one hand was a doctor's note, in the other a folded paper towel carrying her ID badge. Her steps were cautious, but her eyes were clear. Landon came down from the office to meet her, heart full. I'm glad you're all right, he said gently. No, I'm not here to work, Brooke said quickly, her voice steady but cautious. I just wanted to drop this off. Landon nodded. That's okay. You're not cleared yet, but when you are, I want you back. Brooke's mother looked skeptical, her eyes full of protectiveness that had hardened over years of being let down. Landon met her gaze without flinching. I'm responsible for what this place became, he said quietly. That won't happen again. Brooke has leadership potential. I'd like to help her develop it, the right way. Brooke blinked, unsure. You mean like training? No, Landon replied. I mean mentorship, paid, real hours, real growth. You've already earned their trust, and that's worth more than any title. Her mother didn't speak at first, but then she nodded slowly. If you're serious, she'll be back? Brooke gave a small smile, tired but genuine. I'll think about it. By day 3, Landon had spoken with every frontline worker across all 3 shifts. No long meetings, no PR gloss, just a single honest question. What's the one thing that would make your job safer or more fair? The answers weren't extravagant. Honored break times, equipment that actually worked, a clean place to sit for lunch. Not one person asked for more pay. That hit him harder than anything. During a late afternoon walkthrough, Lewis waved him over. Hey, Mr. Lowell. Just Landon, he smiled. Lewis hesitated. I know you're making changes, but can I ask something? Of course. Are you gonna replace Travis with someone from corporate? Landon exhaled. I'm not sure yet. Lewis looked away. Could you not? Because they don't know us. They'll just do what he did, but quieter. Landon thought for a moment. Who do you trust here? Lewis didn't even need to think. Tanya, Reggie, Taylor. Landon nodded slowly. Then maybe we start there. That evening, Landon laid out a formal internal advancement plan with HR. No promotions without training, no shortcuts. But every opportunity would start from within. Let's stop pretending our best leaders wear suits, he told the call. They wear steel toes and drink cold coffee from plastic mugs. After the call, he leaned back in the office chair, tired but grounded. Back on the door. Denny stepped in, holding a worn file folder. Got a sec? Always. Travis used to keep these hidden, found them behind old uniforms. Inside the folder were handwritten complaints, some over a year old. Each was signed. Most had the word dismissed, scrawled across the bottom in red pen. These people still work here? Landon asked. Some. Others quit. Landon scanned the names. He circled each one. He'd meet with them personally. He couldn't erase what happened, but he could show up differently. By Monday morning, the warehouse moved with a new rhythm. It wasn't faster, but it was less brittle. People weren't looking over their shoulders anymore. The mobile cooling unit throbbed steadily by the dock. 4 new industrial gray water dispensers were spread across the floor. Cold, clean, not luxuries, necessities. Landon arrived just after 6 a.m. No disguise this time, just work jeans and a company logo button-up. He nodded to the crew in the break room, then climbed to the operations office. Tanya was already inside, flipping through sheets. She didn't look up. "You're 5 minutes late," she said. "I was hoping you wouldn't notice." "You're not special," she replied dryly. "Not in here." He smiled and sat. "Can we hold without OT this week?" "Barely, but we'll manage. Taylor's helping off floor. I'm cross-training Lewis on inbound logs. He learns fast." "Good call." Reggie's doctor cleared him for light duty. He's on inventory, no lifting. "I'll have HR adjust his classification." She looked at him. "You know you can't micromanage this place forever." Landon leaned back. "I don't plan to, but I'll never be absent again." At 7:30, Landon gathered 8 employees in the training room. No slides, no mic, just chairs in a circle. "This isn't mandatory," he said, "but I want to hear something we should have asked a long time ago. What makes a good warehouse manager?" At first, silence. NEM raised her hand slightly. "Someone who knows our names." Reggie added, "and doesn't treat safety like it gets in the way of productivity." Taylor said, "Pick someone who doesn't need to raise their voice to earn respect." Landon wrote as they spoke. He didn't interrupt. He didn't lecture. When it was over, he stood. "We're not bringing anyone from corporate. We'll promote from here. But not as a favor. It'll be earned, with mentorship, training, accountability." Tanya entered with a folder. 3 candidates, all internal, all volunteered. He flipped it open. Taylor. Brooke. Omar, a quiet, steady dispatcher. He interviewed them all that day. Omar came early, sat with hands folded, answered every question with calm clarity. "People don't clash because they want to," he said. "Usually, no one told them what mattered." Taylor came as she was. No prep, no script. "I'm tired of watching people get ignored. I'm not afraid to speak up. I just want the tools to fix things." Zan Brooke, hair tied back, notebook in hand. Her mother waited outside. "You don't have to do this," Landon told her. "I know," she said, "but I want to. I've seen what happens when we don't have someone looking out for us. I think I can be that person now." By evening, Landon had made his choice. The next morning, he called a floor meeting. No notes, no speeches. "Starting this week," he said, "Taylor will be acting floor lead. Brooke is entering supervisor training. Omar will support both with logistics and tracking." No applause, but there were nods, a few quiet smiles. No one questioned the choices. That day, HR processed everything. Brooke's hours capped for recovery. Taylor was issued a phone and stipend. Omar received a formal title and training access he never had before. Landon didn't just approve the changes. He sat with each one of them and explained why they mattered. That afternoon, he walked the floor again. Fans were mounted, ice restocks automated. But more importantly, people spoke now. At the outbound dock, Lewis jogged. "Hey, can I ask something?" "Always. Do we still have that company scholarship thing? For, continuing ed?" "We do." "Cool. I was thinking about a certification, logistics, maybe even management down the line." Landon smiled. "We'll get you the forms, and if you stick with it, we'll reimburse tuition." Lewis grinned and dashed off. At 6:30, the sun dipped behind the industrial park. Landon stood in the bay, the breeze warm but breathable. The cracks in the system hadn't vanished. But now, there were people here who knew how to patch them before they split wide open. He walked inside, found Tanya locking up inventory. "You're leaving?" she asked. "Tomorrow. I've got a district meeting in Reno." She nodded. "You'll check in every week." He met her eyes. Good. He held the door as she walked out first. By the time he reached his truck, the lights had dimmed, and the lot was nearly empty. No alarms, no yelling. Just the quiet hum of machines winding down, and for the first time in too long, peace. He took one last look at the warehouse. Then he drove away, knowing he wasn't the only one keeping watch anymore.